Delta Property Fund, which is mainly in the government-leased office space, has reported a 7.1% rise in total distribution to 97.24 cents in the year to the end of February. That's compared to a year ago. And CEO Sandile Nomvete joins me in studio now to take us through more of the detail. Thanks so much, Sandile, for your time today. So you have this sovereign underpin to your portfolio. It's a handle that Vukile Property Fund has let go of, saying it's just too risky in the current climate. So what's the appeal? How are you making this work for you? Because it's 76.4% of revenue that's coming from that arena.
Alicia, good evening, and thank you very much for having me on your show. I think, going back, we've been listed now on the JSE for the past 4.5 years. It will be 5 years this November. So we've basically carved out a very unique niche for ourselves, and it's certainly not an easy area to operate out of. And Vukile is not alone, and there are others that we have basically benefited from having the relationship, and we've bought properties from other peers out of the sector. But if you look at the stats and you look at the numbers speak for themselves. My CFO will always tell you that we are one as a management team. If you look at our data days, our data days from government perspective are no more than 20 days, which is phenomenal. We basically have a total rental bill of 1.6 billion. You've just mentioned the number that we are able to extrapolate the type of distribution that the board has declared. What is interesting with that number is that we actually achieved a 7.6% distribution growth. The board was a bit more prudent. Obviously, there's been a lot of noise with the ratings agencies, and obviously with potentially one more to potentially downgrade the sovereign, which may add further complication into the sovereign underpin space. So I think it's something that we have honed our skills on. Government is made up of people. We, at the end of the day, we have to interact with them like we would any potential tenant. But it's also understanding the nodes that they want and need to be there to provide their services to the taxpayers.
You highlighted that distribution growth number. You actually achieved 7.6% growth. Is that enough of a capital buffer, to withstand some of the tough times ahead? Because, one wonders about this political noise and the subsequent ratings downgrades that we've seen and how that comes to bear on your business moving forward. Cost of capital, for one, should be an immediate concern.
Another excellent question. I think we've issued a SENS announcement about 3 weeks ago, particularly in addressing some of those concerns. We don't think that buffer is enough. There is a management-led BEE consortium, which is looking to basically deploy quite a significant amount of capital into Delta's balance sheet to basically act as a defensive strategy in going into some significant uncertain economic environment. And once we get final board approval and subsequently to that, the proposal will need 75% shareholder support. We are pretty certain that we will end up with a pretty firm and solid balance sheet, and obviously position us for further growth, given that our target is to actually achieve a 51% plus black empowerment shareholding. On that note, we have reached an agreement with between the Delta board and Redefine, which was Redefine Properties, which was our largest shareholder, where they've agreed to sell their 22.8% shareholding to a women-led and management-led consortium in facilitating that uplifting of a direct black ownership in the fund. And it's becoming quite important for us to be competitive in this space.
Yeah, and you stand as a benefactor of that. Long-term leases, though, are something that you're going to want more so to secure that rental revenue and settle any shareholder nervousness, I guess, around where you're at. Do you think that's going to be an easy win if you're offering cheaper rentals as an incentive?
Well, it's not only about rentals. I think it's as I've alerted to our shareholder, there's no single bullet solution to the current impasse. We obviously need policy guidance from our biggest tenant being National Department of Public Works. There is a draft leasing policy out at the moment. I think we're at version 9. Which has been out in the public domain for comment, which basically is looking at bringing back long-term leases. Equally, we need to make sure that we are investing in the right nodes where government needs to be. Otherwise, if we're buying in the wrong areas, we obviously will not attract government.
What are some of those nodes?
Well, I think certainly Pretoria, as an example, is a classic example. Pretoria is where you find most government headquarters, and they need to be there from an administrative perspective. Provincially, you look at cities like Pietermaritzburg come into place, Free State or in Bloemfontein. So you need to basically understand where government wants to be and needs to be accessible to the masses as they try and basically provide services to people.
Even with those opportunities, Sandile, you're forecasting earnings coming in flat in the 2018 financial year. So why is that? What are some of the pressure points you see being exerted more heavily moving forward?
Well, the benefit of having short-term leases is that as a landlord, the practice in the property sector is that you can charge higher rentals. Now, given we are budgeting for more certainty around long-term leases, we obviously are budgeting that the negotiations with government will entail that we need to lower our rental. The number that we are anticipating that is in our numbers is an average rental per square meter, particularly for the Pretoria region, of about 95 rand a square meter, which is somewhat lower than some of the renewals that we're doing at about 105 rand a square meter at the moment. And this is part of the incentive where it needs to be a give and take. They are given more certainty in terms of their lease tenure, and we need to come to the party to facilitate some of their savings. You will know that National Treasury has obviously been very effective in some of the austerity measures, and I think we need to do our part to retain those tenants going forward. And it's a competitive advantage.
Well, let's leave it there, Sandile. Thanks so much for having joined us in studio this evening. Of course, Sandile Nomvete is CEO of Delta Property Fund.